Heroes created by people's imagination live and commit their acts of bravery in our program, The Legend of Kazakhs. Legends are an invaluable cultural heritage passed down from generation to generation. The wealth of the people is in its folklore. In fact, this is expressed in the proverb, "Folklore is like a bottomless lake." Legends have existed since time immemorial. Legends absorb the history of an entire people. Surprisingly, legends can give a person the answers to almost all questions. Semiriche, or Seven Rivers, is significant with its natural landscapes. Between the majestic mountain ranges runs a blue ribbon, like the largest river in the Semiriche ili. The valley of the river and its tributaries are replete with fanciful landscapes. On the right bank of the Ili River, there is Altyn Emil National Park. In the territory of the park, different types of terrain are concentrated. In the territory of the park, there are different types of terrain which are concentrated, from sandy deserts to areas of desert mountains. There is a unique natural phenomena called the singing dunes, which are famous for the fact that in dry weather, the sand emits a sound of a pipe organ. Despite the fact that the scientists have studied and explained this phenomena of nature, still people pass along the legends and myths about the singing barham. According to one of the legends, under the sand dunes the devil sleeps. He intrigues people and provokes the highest powers. In ancient times, in these places lived a boy named Jangir and a girl named Kunsulu. One day they met and fell in love with each other, and there was no one in the world more happy than they were. The relatives began preparing for a wedding feast. One day the wonderful Kunsulu went to the river to fetch water, and the evil spirit Shaitan, inhabiting the surrounding mountains, also went down to the river to drink at the clean water. While getting the water, Kunsulu sang a song that her mother always sang. Shaitan heard the gentle voice of Kunsulu and turned towards it. Shaitan saw a lot in his lifetime, but such beauty he had only witnessed for the first time. For a long time, he couldn't take his evil eyes away from the beautiful girl. Kunsulu returned home and Shaitan back to his mountains, and he began to think. He thought of his evil deeds. Shaitan knew that a long time ago he had angered God. Throughout his life, he spied on people, building intrigue and manipulation to let in some illness, or to kill cattle, or sour the milk of nursing mothers, and bold warriors lost agility and strength. Shaitan laughed over his antics, and he was glad to see the people grieving. God saw it, and he was angry at him. He threatened Shaitan that if he ever again allowed himself to do evil, that heavenly punishment would ruin him forever. Shaitan was afraid of God, and no longer harmed people. But his evil heart was not calm. He left to live high in the mountains and settled there, away from the people. In this way, he lived for many years, that is, until he saw the beautiful Kunsulu, and he lost his peace. He wanted to marry her. Shaitan thought for a while and then called for wind. The wind flew to Shaitan. "Why are you calling me, devil?" the wind whistled. "Help me," Shaitan said. "I want to marry the beautiful Kunsulu, and you must persuade her. You can enter into any place, even the most narrow gaps, and you can easily pick up a stone boulder. Even the mountains break into fine sand. Help me, wind." "No, Shaitan. Don't you dare refuse me." Shaitan was furious. "Otherwise, I'll turn you into a little faint breeze, which can only flap thin stalks of steppe grass, and you can never be a hurricane, strong and powerful. I do not belong to you, and you wouldn't do it," the wind whistled hoarsely. "Ha ha ha, yes, you do not belong to me." Shaitan laughed hollowly. "But you know that I am mighty and powerful." The storm surrounded the evil spirit, but in an instant it stopped. The wind whistled softly. "Okay, I'll do all I can. And if she does not agree to marry you, then I will be very angry." There was nothing to do for the wind but to fly to the village and to carry out the orders of the evil Satan. The wind saw Kunsulu and began to curl around her in a light, gentle breeze. He played with her silken hair and pet her brown hands. Affectionately, the wind began to whistle about his master. "Kunsulu," he said to the girl, "a decent man loves you and is willing to take you as his wife. You will be richer than a Persian princess. Your gentle neck will be decorated with the most expensive necklaces of precious stone, and your hands will be embraced with golden bracelets and rings. You will sleep on silk cushions, and servants will wait on you." "What is your master's name?" she laughed and asked. "Oh," the wind exclaimed, "he is a very influential gentleman. He can be whatever you want. He can be very slender with a beautiful face, or he can be a strong, brave batir. Anything you wish to see. In addition, he is very rich, and the wealth will be thrown at your feet." She shook her head. "Oh, you don't believe me? Have a look," the wind said. And from a gentle wind, the wind turned into a powerful vortex. He got up off the ground and spun around the steppe, raising clouds of dust. The wind tore off layers of earth, and under it was a leather pouch full of silver and gold coins. The wind scattered the bag over the head of Kunsulu, raining gold and silver down upon her. "Well, now do you believe me?" The wind again turned into a breeze. "I believe," nodded Kunsulu. "And I guess I know your master. In fact, I've heard about it. He lives in the mountains, and his name is Shaitan. Tell him also that I would never marry him. I love Jangir, and I will become his faithful wife." Kunsulu turned away from the wind and ran home. The wind returned to Shaitan and told him how everything went. Sparks gushed from the eyes of Satan, and in his terrible rage, he threw himself on a quest for Kunsulu. Shaitan flew to the village, and he saw Kunsulu and Jangir, and how happy they were. Shaitan lost everything. He forgot what he had promised to the Almighty, not to hurt people. The furious rage and anger seized him. He cried in a terrible voice, "Kunsulu, will you be mine?" "No, never," she shouted in response. And the lightning flashed from the eyes of Satan. Fire and smoke covered the valleys, and in an instant the lovers turned into mountains. Jangir into the big Kalkan, and lovely Kunsulu into small Kalkan. Shaitan grabbed his head in despair when he realized what he had done, and was swept up by fear. God, of course, saw all of this, and thunder rumbled in the sky. Lightning flashed, and Shaitan knew that his end was approaching, and he threw himself on the ground. He began to fill himself with sand to avoid the punishment of heaven and to hide from God. And Shaitan is still buried under the sand between Kalkan, large and small. The wind sweeps more and more sand upon him. Only sometimes the lonely moan would escape from Shaitan's chest, and the magical sounds, the voices of loved ones, communicating with one another. The Singing Dunes, sand dunes about 100 meters and length of 3 kilometers. The dunes are called singing because of the deep vibrating hum coming from it at times, vaguely reminiscent of the sound of a flying aircraft or an organ sound. The song sung by the dunes can be heard even a few kilometers away from them. The sound is born when the smallest grains rub against each other. The breeze gives them an easily audible squeak, and the strong gusts have a more intense and expressive sound. Even in calm weather, you can listen to the tunes of the dunes. Step on the dune's surface, causing friction of the grains of sand, and they create an unusual sound. The dunes, despite the fragility of the sand, do not roam for several thousand years. They are located in the territory of Altyn Emil. The dunes were formed as a result of blowing sand from the shoals of the Ili River. Between Kalkans and the mountain of Boguti and Sugati, there is a strong wind that rises from the river and the shallows of the clouds of the sandy dust. In the big and small Kalkans, standing at the slight angle to each other, winds meet an obstacle and weaken, leaving the sand just between them. So, for many thousands of years, it grew into a huge sandhill. The singing of a sand dune is a rather rare phenomenon. Scientists attribute this to the fact that when the weather is dry enough, when the sand slowly pours down, there is an effect of friction on the sand grains. There is a kind of vibration which is transformed into a buzz. The more the grains of sand are involved in the process, the greater the sound. The dunes range from a weak squeak to organ music, and they even rumble. Only the dry sand mass emits sound. However, the uniqueness of the dune is not only that it sings. It is also considered to be that the dunes were formed in an area among the mountains of stone. The Kazakh people came up with a lot of stories about the amazing Barkhan. And when you see it live, it gives the impression that it is actually alive as well. And it seems to every traveler that it tells a wonderful legend. In the next program, we will tell you about the interesting legends about animals that try to build a common house and the outcome of their efforts. The legend of how the bizarre mountains Katutau, located in the Altyn Emil National Park, were formed.